What is up, everybody? I am so excited to talk about Jon Kent today and why he sucks.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I think that he's the worst. No, I don't. He's so cool. He is such a cool character. He's so entertaining. He's so interesting. And I love him. I think he's great. But I will admit one thing to you guys. You keep this a little bit of a secret, because I think a lot of the comic book fandom is not gonna like me in particular for this take. Would like to let you know, I've grown out of this take. I was one of those people growing up that thought that Superman kinda sucked. I thought he was boring, but I did read more Superman and I got into the character a little bit more. This book, this phenomenal masterpiece of a book that I don't believe is canon, and that's okay, is honestly so incredibly amazing. It has such a great story to it. If it wasn't for this book, I don't think I would have picked up anything that I had picked up. I thought that Superman was so boring before I picked up this book. And so I read that book right after I read my favorite series ever, Invincible. Perfection right there. One day I'll talk about it, maybe not. But this book showed me what Superman really meant. Hope, freedom, and loving the people around you. There's a lot to Superman's character that I feel like people don't give him credit for. And quite honestly, I hope it changes once James Gunn gets to, the James Gunn movie is gonna come out next year, and I really think that that's just gonna blow everyone away and change everyone's opinion like that. It's gonna be in an instance that you're gonna be hearing fanboys online being like, well, I think that Superman's kind of boring and interesting and sucks. To, I told you I always liked Superman. I did. I promise. I always liked him. You know, we're gonna have this switch up instantly. It's gonna be fun because I'm expecting great things. If that movie doesn't turn out like that, I'm gonna be sad. At that point, I might just be like, screw it, I'm done with this. But I hope not, because I do love Superman, and I want people to realize that there is a reason to love this guy. More than just like, he has every power in the book, he can't fight anyone. No, he's interesting, he's genuinely interesting, and there's a lot to his character. But today we're not talking about Clark. We're talking about Jon Kent Superman. Recently I went into my local comic shop and I picked up this book because I looked at the front and I looked at the back and I go, wow, that honestly looks really fucking interesting, and it looks really cool. And that is as far as I went, and I took it, I brought it to the counter, and I bought this baby. And I promise you, it did not disappoint. There's a few things in here that it might be because it's just Jon Kent number 1 through 6. Maybe it has to do with that, and I get it. It's probably a longer series than just 6 issues, and I do need to read that. But this is the first time I ever picked up a Jon Kent book. I've never once read anything with Jon Kent Superman or Jon Kent in general in it, and I fell in love with him. I thought he was amazing. I had to know more. And that's when I finally decided, a few days later, I'm going to the comic shop again, and I'm getting more Jon Kent, baby. I'm learning everything that there is about this character, and I want to know more. So I picked up Superman, Volume 1, Son of Superman. And I promise you, this book did not disappoint either. And the Super Sons Complete Collection is honestly phenomenal. I don't know how you can't love Jon Kent and Damian Wayne after reading this. Okay, let's get into the books. There's a lot we need to discuss. First off on the list is Superman Volume 1, Son of Superman. This book right here is a really fun story to read. I will say, for starters, I didn't read anything before this book, so that definitely screwed me over, and I should have for the research of this video. I'm just focusing on Jon Kent and the history of Jon Kent, and that's kind of just where it started. Anything that I didn't understand or I didn't know fully what was going on, I was able to either look up, or I was just able to kind of like skip over and then get to Jon Kent stuff. With that said, I give this book a 7 out of 10, which is a really good score. I really enjoyed it. Jon Kent has a really, really interesting story in this book to me, because we are seeing Jon Kent turn into the superhero that he one day will be. We're seeing a young Jon Kent being not neglected by his father, for sure, but definitely the priority of his son for Superman is kind of left on the cutting room floor. And because of that, we kind of see him focus more on being Superman, more than he's focusing on his son and his wife and his family. Lois understands, but John's still a little kid. That's not getting around in his brain, and that's fine. Obviously, as he learns more and more about what his father does and who his father is, he fully embraces it and fully understands what it means for his father to be Superman. In this book, when Jon first gets his powers, he accidentally kills his mother's cat. His mother's cat was outside, because they live on a farm, so it kind of makes sense, I guess, and got swooped up by a hawk. Either Lois or Clark were around, so Jon tried to protect the cat, and he tried using his heat vision on that hawk, and clearly he has no control over what he's doing or what he's capable of. So although this is an accident, he still accidentally killed his mother's cat. Lucky for him, neither of his parents were around. Within the following hours, his father has a talk with him, and he tells Jon that he can smell what had happened. He knew that Jon had accidentally killed his mother's cat. Pretty cool that Superman could smell that, but like, random superpower, I guess. Clark tells his son that he needs to tell his mother. He can clearly tell that Jon feels guilty for this. We continue to see a little bit of Jon and his father training and really honing in these powers in this book, but that's not really the main focal point of this book, because it's really Jon's first time having these powers, and it's still very, very early. And that's when we get into a book that is truly phenomenal. It didn't just make me a fan of Jon Kent, it made me a fan of a completely separate character that I truly never believed that I would be a fan of. That being Damian Wayne. I've never really liked the snot-nosed brat. I've only really watched the animated movies, and I've never read anything that he was in. And like, especially in that Teen Titans movie, oh my god, he was such a prick. He is very obnoxious. I'll give it to anyone who says that. However, his growth in comics is so much more, and it's so much more important because Jon's there. Damian and Jon grow together. Damian is able to teach Jon that it's important to be calculating and know what you're doing, especially when you're holding people's lives in your hands, when you're doing the job that they're training to do. Damian understands that. Jon is still a kid and he's still figuring that out. But Damian still needs a lot of growth too. And his doesn't come at the expense of superheroing and anything like that. It comes at the expense of, I would honestly say, Jon is his first real friend. I would say that this kid had never actually had a friend before Jon. Like, he really didn't. There's a lot that happens in this book. I'm obviously not gonna go through all of it because there's a lot, but Damian grows so much as a person. At first, he's a little snot-nosed brat that starts out by literally kidnapping Jon, kidnapping Superman's son, and bringing him to the Batcave. First off, probably not the best idea to kidnap the most powerful man in the world's son. I understand, like, he's Damian Wayne, he's Robin. But, yeah, not the smartest thing in the book, especially when you, like, call yourself, like, extremely smart all the time, like Damian does. Probably not the smartest move, huh? But he starts off as a brat. He's obnoxious, he's rude, he is mean to Jon, he is mean to Superman, he is mean to even his own father, kind of. He keeps saying throughout this whole book that he believes that he is superior to his father, that already at the rightful age of 13, that he is a better superhero than Batman. He doesn't understand why he is not recognized to be better than Batman at the age of 13. Obviously, you never really know how old Bruce is, but certainly not 13. But how did he grow? I get that you're asking that because I just went on like a little bit of a spiel about how he started off as like kind of an ass. Well, he grew by making his first real friend and understanding what compassion is. Compassion for others, and not just being a complete and utter narcissist, like he is. Jon teaches him not to be that. Not by forcing him, not by anything like that, by just showing him what his morals are. It rubs off on Damian a lot throughout this whole book, and slowly as the story progresses, you start to like Damian a lot. He's a good character, but the big story that I'd like to cover is when Tim Drake comes back from an alternative future to try and kill Jon. Because Jon in the future, because of Damian making him emotional, ended up killing a lot of people. He ended up leveling Metropolis. And that's kind of crazy to think, because he definitely spent his whole life protecting Metropolis, just for him to be the one who destroys it. But Jon has this uncontrollable power, that the more emotional he becomes, the more his cells start to charge up, and he has a huge outburst. But because of that, we see so much of Tim Drake wanting to kill him in the Titan's Tower. Garfield, Logan, and Raven end up joining Tim Drake's side. And as kind of understandable as that is, and they don't want to kill the kid, they still went with their murderous ex-friend, or like, you know, still friends with Tim Drake, but like, they went with the murderous intent Tim Drake, which is kind of crazy. But Aqualad, Kid Flash, and Starfire are all on the opposing side. All understanding that Robin and Superboy, Jon Kent, don't deserve to die. Jon Kent doesn't deserve to die because something he's gonna do in 30 years. He's a kid. He's a literal child. Why are you putting repercussions of him as an adult onto him now? Starfire, Aqualad, and Kid Flash all catch up to Jon and Damian after they run away. Where they ran to was the base that their fathers had given them, so that the two of them could team up because their base is in water and Aqualad can sense where they went. They get into a little bit of a fight because Jon and Damian think that they're on the opposing team, when you are team leader of 3 of those people and just start throwing fists instead is a little bit crazy. While this is all going down, Raven, Garfield, and Tim are trying to track down Jon spiritually through Raven. However, eventually, Raven, Tim Drake, and Garfield do catch up to them. They catch up to them when they go off to the Fortress of Solitude because they're trying to look for a safe haven that they don't think they'll be able to find him in. You might be wondering where Superman is, or where Batman is, because this has to like do heavily with their children. Superman is in like a dome, a little like pill-shaped dome, lined with red kryptonite near the Fortress of Solitude. Tim Drake took care of him earlier. And even before he took care of Superman, he took care of his own father. But when Jon sees his father locked inside of that pill-lined red kryptonite contraption that Tim had put him in, he starts to freak out. And he starts to go nuclear. And unlike last time, there's nothing covering his body to make sure that no one around them dies. And at this point in time, feel like it's fair to bring in this book. I'm not going to talk about it. However, I will say that is Tim Drake, that is Connor Kent, that is Cassie, I believe, and this is Bart Allen. These three, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Superman of Tim Drake's time, they end up tracking them down to right outside, pretty much, the Fortress of Solitude. The team of Teen Titans from the future that came back to get Tim Drake to make sure he doesn't kill a child. But even with the combined efforts of everyone that's there, him is still a challenge to take down. He is prepared to kill Jon. And while all of this is going on, Superman orders Wallace West and Bart Allen to start running around in a counterclockwise rotation to try and prevent the worst outcome of what could happen with these insane powers with Jon. When Jon starts freaking out the way he is, Savior, aka Batman of the future, aka Tim Drake, ends up saving Jon and taking in all of this energy that sends him shooting back through the time stream. He becomes one with the time stream. I would give this book a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. It was really, really good. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because how good it was, if I'm being honest. Just go read it. This book was maybe 50 bucks, 60 bucks. I'm sure you could get it for less on Amazon. I try to not get my books off of Amazon, but sometimes that's hard. If you're just getting into this is a great book to pick up on. It is literally just about Jon and Damian becoming best friends and the people that they beat and work with throughout their time as being young superheroes. It is a really good jumping on point. I suggest going into this medium with this book if you want to. If you don't, I completely understand. But on to the final book that I will be talking about in this video, and what inspired me to make this video in the first place is Adventures of Superman, Jon Kent. Oh my god, this book is amazing. I can't give it a full 10 out of 10, I just can't, and I'll explain in a second. I do have my problems with it, but I think it's a really interesting book overall because we have Ultraman. He's part of the crime syndicate, and he's also the leader. I love the animated movie that is made by the same people who made Batman Kevin Conroy universe, the Justice League Unlimited, Justice League, Superman, Static Shock, Batman Beyond. I love Batman Beyond. I need more of him. But anyways, they do a really good job of showing who Ultraman is. And honestly, that's all you really need to know who that is. Ultraman in this book is going on a mission to kill all of the Supermen in every multiverse. That he thinks that they might be a threat to him at some point, and he'd rather take care of them before they have the chance to take care of him. And so we join with, I'm just gonna call him Obama Superman, because like he's literally based off of Obama, which is like the coolest thing ever. So we got Obama Superman and Lois Lane, aka Mrs. Tornado. They come to recruit Jon to take down his demons. And I know nothing about this beyond what this book has in it. They know that Ultraman kidnapped Jon when he was a child, and he brought Jon to a strange world where time moved a lot faster than it does here. That's why in current continuity, Damian is so much younger than Jon. They also just wanted to age up Jon so that they could use him more and not just keep him as a kid for the next 20 years, which makes sense, you know? But there's definitely better ways of doing that. What can I say? I'm not the one who wrote it. I wish they were still the same age-ish. But they gave him the chance to stop what this Superman is doing. And he takes it, he jumps at that opportunity. No, he doesn't. He's nervous. They convince him to come. As Jon is saying goodbye to his boyfriend and his mother before he leaves for whatever world Ultraman is gonna hit next. And as he goes off with Red Tornado and Obama Superman, they end up in the Injustice universe. And that is the version of Superman that Ultraman is trying to currently kill. But before Ultraman could get to Clark of this universe, he finds Jon, and they have the Phantom Zone projector, and they try to use it on him. But Obama Superman and Red Tornado are literally both just Uno reverse card with it. Ultraman uses it on them, and Jon starts to get the shit beat out of him until he uses what we were just talking about in Super Sons. Now you see how they're related, besides it just being Jon Kent. We start to see him irradiate this blue energy, very reminiscent of the time that his father was the blue and red, and this is just more of a giant burst of energy that absolutely mollywalks Ultraman. Ultraman recovered before Jon could, and that took a lot of energy, and Jon hasn't trained at all on how to use that power before. It just came out of the blue. So obviously he doesn't understand how much energy he just lost. So Ultraman starts to beat the living bricks off of him until Injustice Superman ends up swooping in and snapping Ultraman's neck. Keep in mind, Ultraman did torture Jon for years, so he's not the most against it. But Injustice Superman ends up realizing that this is the son that he lost when an evil man killed Lois. I get it. Joker is to blame for what happened, but he still was the hands that did it. And he killed his unborn child while doing that. But Jon doesn't know any of this yet. He doesn't know that Injustice Superman is a dictator. He gradually finds out that this dictator has taken him under his wing almost. Jon asked if he could go explore this great new world that he had created to make his own opinion on it. Wonder Woman kept telling him what a bad idea this was, but Injustice Superman wouldn't listen. Jon eventually sees through everything that Injustice Superman was trying to show him, and he sees that on the other side of it, no one's making a noise. There's no crime, there's no noise, and people are afraid. He goes up to a woman's window, and she is horrified of him. Not because of who he is, not because he's flying, not because there's a strange man outside your window, but because she sees the House of El symbol, the symbol of hope. The whole world is mortified of that symbol because everyone's afraid for their lives because of Injustice Superman. Jon eventually realizes all of this and understands it. Jon ends up teaming up with the Injustice Batman and agrees to help him take down Superman. But Jon first, before he fights off any of Superman's allies, he goes to Barry Allen. The two of them don't have a fight, they have a talk. They have a talk of how Barry thinks Jon should handle this, and they make a deal because he knows the one person that could stop him if they really wanted to would be Barry. They do this while they have time slowed down to almost being stopped. Barry tells him, just don't hurt Clark. But Barry understands what Clark sees when he looks at Jon. So he agrees to not interfere, as long as Jon doesn't break his promise. Jon deals with all the others, but when it comes to Superman, he doesn't lay a finger on him. He allows Superman to beat him before Superman realizes how much he had lost his way. This book was a 10 out of freaking 10. Except for one thing. And with Jon going back home, the one thing that isn't tied up that kind of bothered me, look, I have no clue, and I didn't even look it up, if Obama Superman and Red Tornado were taken out of the Phantom Zone. The Phantom Zone projector was broken, so it couldn't be used on Ultraman. That's like the biggest reason I can't give this book a 10 out of 10. But for introducing me to a character that I now love, I would say that this is easily a 9 out of 10. I seriously suggest just picking up a comic and going to read it. Maybe even just pick up a graphic novel. That way you have more and you don't have to wait a whole month. Because I understand that. I've been really impatient for the new Ultimates books to come out. I've been really impatient for the new Absolute Universe books to come out. Because those are really, really sick and I'm in love with them. Okay, before I finish off the video, and we can all agree now that Jon Kent does not suck, and that was just rage bait, well, thank you so much for making it to this point in the video. Normally, I don't think my videos will be this long because I covered 3 books. And just one small favor, if you watched this far at this point, like and subscribe, man. I'd really appreciate it. Until the next time, have a great day.